Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to From Overseas to On the Seas. Now, this project was born out of the fact that I was a fellow for British Council last year. I had the absolute wonderful opportunity through Arts and Homeless International to apply to be a fellow, and I got chosen as one of 66 out of 800 and something people applicants. Whew, yep, felt really good for that. And it meant I had to go to Venice and live there for a month.
Oh dear.
The woes of that job. And it meant also that I was an invigilator for the Biennale, the 60th anniversary of the International Arts Festival over there, for the British Council, and invigilating the wonderful John Akomfra's Listening All Night to the Rain exhibition. It was an amazing opportunity, and a part of that fellowship also meant that I should undertake a research project or something. Come back with something, basically. Don't just go there and live it up. Come back, undergo some sort of research. My research was this. I always wondered, being the first generation of an immigrant to England, I always wondered why people choose where they migrate to. They're going to find home, but why do they choose the country that they try to, or the city that they choose to settle in? And when I realized that I was going to Venice, and I thought, and also the theme of the Biennale was foreigners everywhere, it got my brain thinking that, I bet I'm going to see a whole load of foreigners over there. And I wonder how many of them are immigrants amongst all those tourists. And I did get to find a few. And then I thought, why on earth would you choose Venice to migrate to with all that water? That's so unique. Like you can't catch an Uber. Once you're lost, you're lost. You better walk home. And if you're on the other side, on one of the other islands, and you're lost, meh. Right? It happened to me night 2. I soon found out. But it was a wonderful experience being there, and such a massive opportunity. In the Biennale, in the pavilion, the British pavilion that was there, I got to speak to hundreds of people from all over the world. And that actually spurred me up for my project that I was going to be doing. Because at first I was quite nervous. I thought, I'm going to have to find people. How do I know who's an immigrant and who's actually a tourist? Because nearly everybody was, foreign. If they didn't speak Italian, nearly everybody was foreign. But I managed to. I engaged myself with the other invigilators of other pavilions, and when I realized that they were immigrants, they kindly, out of the kindness of their arty heart, decided to give me one of their interviews. And also, I was living next to somebody. I saw them, and for obvious reasons, which you will see, I realized that they were definitely an immigrant to the area. So I approached them. They couldn't speak English, but their husband could, and we managed to talk and get the idea of, would you like to tell me your story? Now, the reason why I really love this particular theatrical convention, which is headphone verbatim theatre, is I didn't write this. What you're hearing today are 100% words from my interviewees, and it's their story. So I'm going to tell you through these headphones, which I'm going to put on now. Nope. Technology for you. I'll do that again. Anyway, I'm going to put the headphones in, and when I press play, I'm going to hear the interview, which I've edited down from their 40 minutes worth of story that they've told me, and I'm going to give you the crux of what it feels like being an immigrant to Venice. What are the challenges? What are the funny? What are the nuances? And why? Why? And how did they find the whole water thing as well? So, and they were from overseas. And yes, I do know that the waters around Venice are actually the canals. They're not actually seas. We will overlook that bit, right? It's still water. So that's where my brain was going when I wrote from overseas to on the seas. I just need these to connect. Here we go. Connected. We'll all go. So I have 4 stories, and each one of them, you'll be in here for about 45 minutes because each one of them is about 10 minutes long. I couldn't cut it down for any shorter than that because they were just too good. Didn't work, Pia? Okay, cool. If you see me do that and it doesn't work, could you help me, please? Thank you. So my first interviewee is Gokshu. I won't pronounce her surname because I don't want to give it the bad justice. I do not know how to pronounce that surname, but that is it. And yes, you'll hear from the story who she is and why she's there. Hi, I'm Yokshu, and I'm living in Venice. I am coming from Turkey, Ankara. I live here for 4 years right now, and it's my 5th year in Italy. I was living in Pisa before. Right now, I'm working for the Biennale, for the Pavilion of Turkey. And actually, I actually studied my master's here. So just to moving to another country and leaving all my belongings there behind, it was so difficult for me, even if it was Italy and everything would be so great. I knew it. And I was just coming here for the master's degree, so it wasn't for like any difficulty, or it wasn't just for an obligation, but it was also an obligation. In the beginning, it was hard and difficult in case of like, even if I had many friends, I had new friends, you don't feel yourself like at home because of for example, I'm not a very small talk, chitty-chatty person, and I had some troubles to have a conversation with the friends that I met in another language. I mean, you feel alone deep down, even surrounded by the people. But I think it takes time, and I think it's a common experience for every immigrant. Now I feel much more like belong here, which is sad because I never planned to leave behind my country, but I had to. You always keep that feeling that you are not at home inside of you. I don't know. For example, when I first moved here, I was in contact with my friends in Turkey so frequently. It's kind of like you have to leave them behind. It's a choice you have to make because you can't belong. Well, maybe you can belong to a place, but you can't really belong one place which is very new for you unless you really willing to leave the other space behind. But it's, I think, grief because you're losing something. I was speaking English before I moved here because I also studied my bachelor's in Ankara in English. But English language actually is the most difficult part I've been going through here, like moving another country because I didn't know anything about the Italian. I can't speak Italian right now, even after the whole years, because I was also studying in English with the Italian group of people. I obliged them. I pushed them speaking English. I didn't feel myself very comfortable just pushing them. So it's also affecting your social interactions. Coming from really like a Mediterranean culture, there's similar culture here, but there's something that I really like, I kind of like funny. I don't know how you can say it. Blowing the nose very noisily in the public area. It was like, in Turkey, it's like when you blow your nose, you just go away, go to the toilet, go away. It's like the students and the blowing their nose as like nothing happened. It was like, really? But now I'm doing it because I think it's funny. I found very positive things, especially like the equalities. I mean, the perception of being a female is very different here. The romantic situation or the friendships, it's a kind of different actually here. It was a good experience. So I changed. Of course, we always changing, but I really radically changed here. So I got something, and I appreciate it actually. I feel like right now in limbo. I can't say that this is home because, for example, having the contract here is a little bit difficult in Venice, so I don't have contracts with my apartment. And right now, I can't say that it's my home because I can't keep kicked out. As for example, if I quit that job or if I lose that job, it wouldn't be easy for me to get another job. I can, maybe, but not this level. Living here, this practical challenges is always there. I'm not settled here. I would much more feel like home if I had an apartment of my own here, or citizenship, of course. It would be much more easier. I met a friend who was living in Bologna. We just made a trip here for the carnival. And I don't know why, but when I out from the train station and I saw the steamer for the first time, I really loved it. And then I started to research about the master programs here. And I grew up in Ankara, which is the capital of the big city. But I was always intrigued about living in a city by water. Water fascinated me in the beginning, but right now, maybe after a year, I felt myself like I need to see some green because unfortunately we have really limited green in access here in Venice. But it's still good because we have so many good areas. So I like walking, and getting access anywhere by walking is like really like took me really in the city. But water, the city is so much things to offer, like its Biennale and the mini film festival, like the Carnival, and I'm also into the arts scene. So I really love this city. I speak English most of the time, so most of the times I'm being treated as a tourist, even if I'm living here for 4 years. I think about Venice, it's very beautiful, and I love the city, but it's so tiring as well. People here have to work more than one job to afford themselves because most of the jobs here are seasonal. I'm working, but still, like, maybe I wouldn't stay here if I didn't have this job. I feel lucky to live here, but at the same time, I'm so sorry about all the things that's going through, like in Turkey right now. People are really moving abroad in Turkey, right? The younger generation. I think I must tell this story because it's the heart of this everything. In the January of 2023, I had this interview in some museums and art galleries in Istanbul because I really wanted to go back, even though I really like Venice. And I got these job offers there, but well, in February, we had a really huge earthquake in the southeast of Turkey, and it was, I can't even describe that suffering. Many people died. And the thing is, another earthquake is going to happen. Experts are saying we don't know when it's happened. It's going to be tomorrow or in 10 years. So after this earthquake happened, I got really scared. Like all of the people living in Istanbul, they're living with fear. Many people will die for sure. Then I had to reject these jobs because all the arts and culture opportunities are in Istanbul. I'm glad living here, but at the same time, I mean, like, I don't know. That's why I'm in limbo, maybe. I think the most difficult part of being an immigrant is to lose the direction of home. You are home. I'm sorry, you are home. So you feel yourself as home. So to live somewhere. I'm reaching that point that, okay, that my body, I am home. Because the places is going to change. And I met Kokshu at speaking to one of her friends at another pavilion, and I realized that they were both immigrants. So I was like double lucky in booking both of them at the same time. We've seen opportunity, grab it with both hands, because it was quite difficult to actually get interviewees over there. But yes, I'm going to swiftly move on, because these are the quotes that I thought really were profound in that in her story for me. You feel alone deep down, even surrounded by people, but I think it takes time, and I think it's a common experience for every immigrant, you know. And you always keep that feeling that you're not at home inside of you. You know, there was just so many things when I was listening to her story that really grabbed me, that I'm not an immigrant, I'm British. My mum was, and I know her story, but until you hear their stories, you don't know. Maybe you can belong to a place, this is my favorite quote of them, but you can't really belong one place unless you're really willing to leave the other space behind. Well, that's sad, really. Unless you're willing to completely go, yeah, I'm done with there. I need to concentrate on where I am now. The most difficult part of being an immigrant is to lose the direction of home. And I completely get that. As the other stories will tease some of these. They're quite common to the other stories as well. And I'm going to move swiftly onto the next story. Oh, whoops, wrong one. There we go. Sonyeon was a wonderful lady who actually was one of our hosts for the Korean pavilion. While we were there, we had the opportunity to go and see other pavilions and to be taken on tour by other invigilators. Honestly, we were well looked after. It was a fantastic, fantastic opportunity there. And when I was running out of people to interview, I thought, hang on a minute. So I went back to see her at her pavilion, and she was so, you know, I came to visit her, and I brought a drink as well. Not a little drink and a piece of fruit, and she just made it like into a little visit, and she said yes. So we met at a really cool bar uptown. I'm living in Venice since 2018, May. So this is my 6th year only. And back in the time, I was dating an Italian-American guy, 4 years in Korea. And we were kind of getting tired of working in Korea because it can be really stressful. And we wanted to find our dream and what we really wanted to do. And his parents were already settled in Venice, and we also decided to move here and start our new life. And 2018, July, we got married in Venice, and I'm still here. And I go back to Seoul every year to not forget my family and friends and where I'm from. And from last year, I started my master's degree in Kafka University for studying art management. Yes. And when I arrived here, I didn't know how to speak Italian. I only could speak English or either Korean, but Korean is useless in Italy, obviously. So that's why I kind of started to work at the Biennale exhibitions, and I always love art. So it gave me good experiences to get along with Italians and other international colleagues. So Yeah, that's why I'm still working at cultural mediator at the Biennale exhibitions. I could improve my Italian, not only because I attended Italian courses, but I could improve more with working in other Italians together. So everything is different. I find Italians and Koreans get along quite well because maybe because they're family oriented, and Korea also is family oriented. Italians are being great. They're very patient, especially in Venice. It's easier for them to meet foreigners from all over the world. So it was easy for me to get along with Italians or the friends from other countries. Yeah. And even though I'm okay with Italians, in the end, I feel more close to other foreigners. For the first 2 years, it was hard for me to walk around in the city. As years go by, yeah, I'm used to it, of course. And now I feel more comfortable walking alone, more than taking the water bus, the Vaporetto. I can walk faster than the Vaporetto. And the city, but the Venice city itself has quite everything already. So I don't really go to mainland. As a foreigner, like first 2 years, I was offended by they always try to talk to me in English, even though I tried to talk to them in Italian, because they think I'm not resident. Yeah, but if I go to every very very residential area, they are very, how can I say, original people from Venice, and they don't find it a problem to speak in Italian. Yeah. So that's why I was offended. So the exhibition area where I work in Italy is very residential area. So the pure Venetians live there. And I was having aperitivo after work. And there was a drunken Venetian guy approaching to us. And saw us, we all mixed group, me Asian, and the other girl Russian, and two other Italian guys. And they saw us and they ask us, are you Venetian? And of course he was speaking Italian, Venetian accent. And we didn't want to talk to somebody already drunk, and so we didn't answer long enough. And we said, yeah, we're Venetian. And we hoped he moves away. But he wanted to keep the conversation. And he started to ask, he picked on me. He said, oh, well, is she also Venetian? But you know what? I was the only one who actually living in central Venetian place. The rest of them were living outside of Venice. So you obviously just judged me around, I'm Asian, I'm the one that doesn't seem like living in this area. And later my friend told me, don't be bothered. There are people like them everywhere. But it still bothered me because I feel like I was judged by my appearance and my race, even though I'm resident of Venice. And I felt like even though I settled down here for many years, there will still be some people who think I'm foreigner forever. I'm still Korean. I think I can never be Venetian, even though I don't want to be treated as foreigner forever. But yeah, I understand some people, it's not easy for them to judge me as like a pure Venetian. Of course, I understand. But I think that that kind of actions, make me feel isolated sometimes, yes. My wedding day was very beautiful. And every time I go to the other city, I'm always amused to find different culture, different food, different architecture, style. Yeah, I love Italy, and also people are very, very nice, yes. Even though I said some, some unpleasant stories, but they're just part of my life. As we didn't plan to come to Venice, we don't have plan of until when we are staying. But the language and the connection as a foreigner, of course, it's also difficult for, as an Italian these days, many friends of mine are having trouble to find decent job. Yes. So I think this is very good opportunity. So sooner or later, I can go back to Korea, I think. Yes, yeah. But I'll be missing very great opportunity to see all these beautiful exhibitions. I was always loved to go to museums and exhibitions, but I found the charm of contemporary art, because if you're surrounded by contemporary art exhibitions in Venice, and definitely I would not see the same things in Korea, because Korea is still, they're more focusing on commercial parts, yes. So I'm gonna miss that. I ask myself, where is my home? Up until maybe third year, because I was going back to home in Korea every year, every winter. And every time I go back, I felt like, oh yeah, this is my home. But after 3 years, weirdly, every time I go back and spend 1 month in Korea, I felt like, oh, I want to go back. I want to go back to Venice. It feels like I feel home in Venice. I don't like city anymore. Like Seoul is too crowded, too busy, and the buildings, they're just identical. Yeah, there's no character. At a city, I feel like there's so many things to have fun, but I feel like the spirit of itself is kind of losing, because every year they're building new stuff and they're losing their historical part. Yes, and to compare to Venice, they know how to appreciate the history and the classic and the philosophy of the spaces. If the art was not so important to me as now, I might change to go to live to other city where more secure jobs are guaranteed, or somewhere less touristic, yeah, or somewhere the rent is cheaper because of over tourism. Oh, this keeps happening. Less touristic, or somewhere the rent is cheaper because thanks to the over tourism, the rent is getting higher every year, and there are not many spaces to rent as a resident. Yes, sometimes I get really annoyed with them, the tourists. Yes, because they don't really respect the city. But as I'm studying art and I'm working in the arts field, yeah, Venice is most inspiring city to live. Yes, I still feel myself as an immigrant, because sometimes I still don't get every Italian manners or attitudes, yeah, or also the political part. It's really hard. I don't know what's going on. So in that way, I feel I'm always immigrant. And many people ask me, am I going to change my nationality? Because Koreans cannot have two nationalities. But I don't think I will change. No, I don't need to. Yeah. So I will always be Korean. Oh, wrong way again. Down, not up. Yeah, there are a couple of there were a couple of quotes in Soyun's that really got me. Every time I go back and spend 1 month in Korea, I feel like I want to go back to Venice, and it means I feel at home in Venice. That really got me. Like, you have to imagine that. I feel like even though I settled down here for many years, there will be some people who think I'm foreigner forever, which is, it kind of echoes something that Gokshu said earlier on as well. So I just found a commonality through nearly all the threads, which you will soon find. I'm going to swiftly move on. Down. Fabiola. So I stayed down here. That's where I was living. This is the neighborhood I was living. Isn't it pretty? And she was a neighbor. I saw her coming home from work one day, and I saw her and I said, nah, yeah, you're not. You're not. You're an immigrant. I know that you're an immigrant. I can see you're an immigrant. So I was like, hey. Little did I know that she didn't speak English, but she was with her husband who speaks English. And between the three-way, we got to communicate, and I was able to book her. And she gave me her interview in in Italian. And I had to find someone to translate her Italian interview. And so I do not have her voice in my ears. I will tell you that from now. I have the translator's voice in my ear. However, she is also from the arts, and she also knew that she had to emulate this person as much as possible. So it's third person, but it's still there. The essence is still there. I arrived here. The difficulties that I had has been the language, because I didn't speak. I didn't know how to express myself, and it was a real difficulty because everyone spoke amongst themselves, and I didn't understand anything. I didn't talk, and it was a real difficulty for me. My father wanted that I would come here, even though, to be honest, I was doing fine in Ivory Coast with my grandma, and so even that has been a bit difficulty for me because I really missed her at first. At first, when we were kind of countryside, not Venice, and it's been a little bit difficult because I was in a middle school and there were some girls that were a bit bad, but afterwards, when we arrived a few months later in Venice, it was very different because here people are, let's say, they used to see diversity, and I had a good relationship with the young people my age, and it was good. In Africa, we used to help even people we don't know, or when someone arrives, or when there's celebrations. I remember that's my grandma would make food even for neighbors, even if we didn't know them. And then Africa, we would play with everyone, and it's been really different in that here, everyone minds their own business, and during celebration, when, how can I say, each one is like on their own. And then in Africa, even when someone is sad, they try to lift them up. And instead, here, it's not like this. So there's loads of cultural differences. Like here, they don't help the elderlies, or the elderlies are very impolite or rude with young people. Whilst in Africa, the young people help everyone else, and the elderlies know how to, how to act with young people. Here is very different. The elderlies meddle in young people's business, and these things makes me sad a bit. Later on, I got used to these differences, and in the end, you say, oh well, it's not, it's not your culture, and it's, you try, how do you say, to get used to this. And with your culture and theirs, you try, because to learn a new culture means to enriching yourself of culture. I've learned to live with these, with their culture. I've learned to integrate myself, because by not knowing their culture, you integrate yourself, or you try to integrate yourself into society, in the country, in the city you belong to, and that becomes like more or less your home. Happy moments of my life, well, there's loads, but let's say it's been when I met my husband, and also, yeah, when met my schoolmates, because they never abandoned me. There are a few challenges, even getting on a bus or public transport or walking around, especially elderly people, because, I mean, at the end, I don't blame them, because, you know, watching TV, put politicians that are constantly looking for ways to make us hated. The beginning, it was true, I was really upset about this, but then I've learned it doesn't really affect me anymore, because at the end of the day, I tell myself it's not their fault, and you can't change, help to change their mind or attitude. So until they address me directly, it doesn't really touch me. I see people being sad because of this, because they're upset about this, and I just try to make them understand that they shouldn't care about these things, even though it's very, 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 very difficult, because someone comes and assaults you out of the blue and tells you, go back home. It's really not a nice thing. But at times it happens in front of me. I always try to defend the person, but unfortunately, it's not like people change. Whenever it happens in front of a Venetians, they defend you. For the moment, we're still here, and I'm not sure when or what we're going, even after the graduating or even later, but we would like to change air and try to find new places. I grew affection that this is my adoptive country, and Ivory Coast is my country. Yeah, I wanted to go back one day, but hard to say which one I would choose, because I don't know. So far, I've got everything here. I've got my family here, so it's a bit difficult. Here, I feel like home, and it's my home, and this is not gonna change, even though I was born in Ivory Coast, and this is my home. Venice is unique. It's a unique city. Let's say that the first time that I arrived here, I asked myself, what kind of place is this? And yeah, you arrive and you see all these city in water that you have to get the steamer and vaporetto, and you think like, what a beautiful, beautiful city. And then at the beginning, it was quite difficult, because I mean, like most of Africans, we can't swim. And you think, oh my God, Imagine the ferry capsizes and end up in the water. I can't swim. What's going to happen? And so, yeah, between that and walking, after a certain point, it was very difficult. But in the end, like everything else, we get used to it. And I got used to it. And yes, so we are looking into, we're, we're looking into starting swimming lessons. But apart from this, yes, I think it's beautiful. And every day I enjoy it as though it's my last, because it's stunning city. I miss my home, but the person I miss the most and is not with us, unfortunately, is my grandma. It's for her that I miss my home, because I wanted to see her, I wanted to hug her, but unfortunately, I can no longer be able to do that because she's left us. It's her I miss, and I would like to go one day to go to her grave to see goodbye. And I better stop here or I will start crying. Being an immigrant here has some real advantages as well as disadvantages, but I think it's like that everywhere in the world. I mean, it's true that you feel like home, and at times you also miss your home. Oh my gosh, it keeps... For me to be an immigrant, there's a part where you learn your culture and you learn to integrate yourself. You will forever miss part of yourself that is your home, where you're born. But at the end of the day, that's how it goes. Thank you. We have just for anybody who does need to go, I'm just to let you know there is just one last story left, which is, I think, the shortest one of them all. And you're very patient, and thank you very much. Thank you. Down. Fabiola's main key quotes that I really jumped out of her story were these: to learn a new culture. I've really loved this one. To learn a new culture means enriching yourself of culture. Like, boom, right? You don't see that. It's awkward. I've got to learn how to be new. I've got to shush, enrich yourself, man. Anyway, you try to integrate yourself in society, in the country, in the city you belong to, and that becomes more or less like your home. Being an immigrant here has some real advantages as well as disadvantages, but I think it's like that everywhere in the world, which is a really lovely, pragmatic way to think about things. And here I feel like home, and it's my home, even though I was born in Ivory Coast, and that is my home. So, yeah. Last story that I've got was the friend of the first story provider was the friend, she was the one coming to visit Masha. So here is Masha's story. I'm Masha, and I come from Masnia, Herzegovina. I was 1 year old when my parents migrated from Bosnia, from Bostar, here, and they were forced to go anywhere else because Mostar was under siege, and they thought it would stop, but after 1 year, it got worse. My mom, she's a Bosnian Croatian, and my father is a Bosniak. which is a Bosniak Muslim. So basically it was like a mixed marriage, and it was very, very common in Bosnia. But during the war in Mostar, it got complicated because after the Serbians attacked and started the war, after 1 year, the Croatians, they started to like working the backs of the Bosnians like this with the Serbians. So my parents had to go because it became really, really dangerous for my father. And they just went to the nearest country they could go to because they just thought they would stay for some months and then go back. But actually, the word was longer. It started in 92, and 95 was when my sister was born, and Mostar was practically destroyed. Everyone kept saying that we shouldn't go back, and this is why my parents stayed, and this is why I grew up here in Italy. They found some jobs that weren't the jobs they aiming for because they were both university educated, but in Italy that doesn't mean anything. So they had to settle for any kind of job just to like stay here because they had to. I think that they just thought about what was best for us because they were always thinking about going back, and they still want to go back. I feel very close to the people that migrate. For example, maybe nowadays we talk a lot about it, like Palestinians or people in Ukraine. I really feel a strong bond. And it's probably because even if I didn't, I wasn't there, I still feel afraid, a deep connection with what my parents, because they never had the chance to process it. They were alone, and they still are alone because they never ever felt completely at home here. So they're always craving to go back. The time that they are spending here is just like in wait to go back to their homeland, basically. I was very, very young, and I had some like traumas from it because I would cry when my mom would like hoover because I think that I would connected this very strong noises with the bombings. I feel a very deep bond with the country still, even if I've never really lived there. It's a very, really important part of my identity. And I think that even though I grew up here, and no one can tell that I'm an immigrant when I talk, because I don't have an accent in Italian, and I don't have the look. So they can easily think of me as an Italian. And even when I when I talk with people on the phone, and when they ask and I say my name, they're like, "Oh my God, you speak Italian so well!" And for me, it's like, what other language am I going to speak? Because this is my first my first. Of course, it's also Bosnian, but I know Italian better than Bosnian. So maybe this is the time that I really feel like an immigrant, because the others make me feel like an immigrant. Or at school, my professor would say, I said something wrong because I come from somewhere else and I'm not Italian, but this is my first language. This is one of the things that really make it difficult for me to like really feel like I belong here. And it's still, I feel a deep connection with Italy and the Italians. And of course, I think in Italian. Most of my friends are Italian or they speak Italian. And I eat probably like an Italian. And I probably behave more like an Italian. But the essence of me will never really feel completely here. It will always be somewhere else. My country was part of Yugoslavia, And there's no more, like there's no Yugoslavia. So people, they don't know where they came from. Like they don't feel attached to the countries that are formed after and after the war. So they just feel lost and they feel they belong nowhere. Many don't understand, but actually it's a problem that really goes deep in the like soul of people, and it's always there. Like if you compare Italy to Bosnia, is that we are more welcoming people. And I don't judge Italians because I think that since they started having immigrants, in these people, came from different countries and they weren't prepared, they didn't fit, they didn't know the language, and they just saw them as something that was different and something they shouldn't trust. And in Bosnia, we didn't have this. So maybe we are still very, very welcoming people because we don't feel endangered. So this is, I think, one of the big differences. Ex-Yugoslavian countries, if someone is in need, if you don't know them, you will help him. In Italy, it doesn't mean like everyone is like that, but in many times they will just go past you and they won't help you. If someone knocks your door and asks for help, people will help you. But then it doesn't happen in Italy. They will give you a glass of water and a pat on the shoulder, but they won't help you. I love being in Venice because you can meet someone that has a new story for you every day, that can be like really tell you things that you don't know and really get you richer. I think the thing I most value in Venice, they're so used to seeing people from all over the world. So I think this is the biggest treasure of Venice. I miss some green. I would like some more like woods and some more nature. But if you just look at the steps that go into the water on the fundamenta of the city, you can see wildlife. You see fishes and all the nature. If you stay, it's because you really want to, and you want to know the city and to help it grow and to help it go better. I feel like Venice is my home, but I always have this perception that it's my home for now. Everyone can always change their lives. I always feel like life is like you have to graduate at that time, you have to have a family by that age, you have to get married, and I don't feel like any of this is true, and everyone should follow its path, and everything can change, and this is, I think, the best thing about life. I feel like they took so much from us, from me, from my parents. They were just like a normal people living normal lives. And all of a sudden, without any warning, they were forced to move. And I feel like the biggest pain for immigrants is that no one or nowhere is really home. Really home, even if you feel really attached to places or for where your family is or for where your family comes from, you are never really completely home. So for being an immigrant in Venice is probably the best city where to feel or to be like it because of its big exchange of people from everywhere. And also this being a city on the water and being a city that had always deep connection with the sea and with people from everywhere, it really makes you feel at home, and it's maybe the city where you can feel less judged. very much. Yes, sorry. Oh, up, down. Where am I going?
Down.
It's down. It's not moving.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah. Do it again, please. Yes, please. Yeah. Oh, no. The other way. Thank you. Yeah. So these were the profound quotes from Masha's interview that that really resonated and really speak and tell you of the journeys of immigrants and how they feel and how I just feel that I learned so much about immigration and full stop, just full stop, because now I think it's changed my perception of people that are trying to find a home somewhere else. I feel like Venice is my home, but I always have this perception that it's just my home for now. I think the biggest pain for immigrants is that nowhere is really home. You are never really completely home. Being an immigrant in Venice is probably the best city where to feel or to be like it, where you can feel less judged. And my overall learning from this is that a lot of immigrants don't feel at home because they go to live somewhere else. So they're a foreigner where they live like somewhere else. And then they come back home, but because they've been living somewhere else for so long, they come back home and yeah, you're a foreigner. Your access has changed, so you're a foreigner. So you're a foreigner everywhere. And that's exactly what the Biennale was, foreigners everywhere. Thank you very much for your attention.